Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on day 5 of the PB Virtual Beauty Week, but day 4 of the first World Spa and Wellness online convention. Yesterday, we had our first Situation Room, part 1, about reset and restart, strategies to prepare your reopening. And today, we have part 2 with Maggy Dunphy, Director of Spa and Wellness Operations Americas at HYATT in the USA, Bjurstam, Senior Vice President, Wellness, Six Senses, currently based in Sweden, and Vyara Tosheva, Wellness Consultant, based in Dubai, UAE. Of course, with us moderating is Mark Maloney, Managing Director of Professional Beauty, and I am also moderating, Jean-Guy de Gabriac, founder of the World Wellness Weekend. Without further ado, because we have exactly 43 minutes to go in this panel, packed with information, insights, and business advice, Mark, I'll let you have the first question.
I should really know my own system, unmute. I think a lot of people are looking forward to when we eventually come out of this lockdown. Clearly, it's going to happen in different times and different parts of the world. Maggy, how do you prepare for the new normal, and when do you reopen, and when will you reopen?
Thank you, Mark. So first of all, I want to remind everyone that this is all new to us. We're in a space that we've never had to be in before. And this morning I was doing my reading and I came across this quote by Brené Brown, who we all love. And it's about, we need to lead humbly and we need to lean into being vulnerable. And I just want to read this quote. Courage is contagious. Every time we choose courage, we make everyone around us a little better and the world a little braver. And that's what we need right now. I think as leaders, in the past several weeks, we had to dig deep into our leadership toolbox and find some things that we've never had to deal with before. And the same thing is going to happen when we open our doors. It's going to be uncharted territory. We have to make sure that we're versatile, agile, courageous, and transparent. But we need to do it with a plan, and we need to have plan A through Z. I think one of the key things we need to do when we reopen is to be agile, to be able to shift. A couple of things that really resonated with me is, we're so used to doing things really fast and wanting to see results. Well, we're going to have to try these new things. We're going to have to pause. We're going to have to listen a little bit more because we're really going to need to respond to the needs of our colleagues, guests, and our shareholders, which could be a little bit different than how we've done it in the past. I think most importantly, as leaders, we need to be more empathetic and aware, and we need to lead with integrity, clarity, encouragement, and our communication really, really, really needs to have the voice of hope. With HYATT, we have, spas all over the globe. And the realistic way of looking at this is we need to see where the world has landed and determine how we and our properties weave the spa and wellness offerings into this new normal. And it really will be different everywhere. Some of the things that we've heard throughout the week on these really great sessions is staying connected and communicating with our guests. I think if we look prior to this whole pandemic happening, all of the seeds we planted and the time we took to be true and honest and transparent with our guests, that's going to really come across in a positive way, because those people, if we continue to communicate and stay connected with them, they will trust and they will have an allegiance to us and our properties. I was happy to read an article this week from Travel Weekly, and Adam Sachs, who's the president of the Tourism Economics Analytics Group, predicted that the fallout from the virus will be 6 times more damaging from that of 9/11, which is alarming. But he also believes that there will be a strong and fast recovery, particularly from the luxury sector. So I think that's some great news to hear when we're not hearing a whole lot of that right now. A couple more things I just want to touch on. In the past, the indicators of spa goers was, do they have time or money? Now we have a new normal. When we talk about money, people are going to be asking, how much do I have to spend? On the programming, we need to re-engineer our menus and make sure that we have intentional programming that focuses on self-love and care and reconnecting, boosting our immunity, and really getting in touch with what we have lost in the last several months. I think it's also a great time to reimagine our spaces. We may have taken for granted in some of our properties that we just have a steam jacuzzi and sauna. Well, we can take these spaces and create social and healing spaces from these. And I think it'll allow not only our teams, but the people that are coming into our spaces to look at our amenities in a whole new way. And I'll just finish by saying, prior to the pandemic, again, we were so excited in our wellness industry that we had a $4.7 trillion industry that was continuing to grow and grow. We now have to do a paradigm shift because there was a reason why prior to this that this was happening, because the world needs us. The world is looking at us now more than ever to answer their questions, to get reconnected and to heal. So when these quarantines are over and people start going out again, we need to be ready for it. We need to look at the timing that we're opening our spaces. And I will guarantee you what will be really busy, and I can attest for it ourselves, is our salons will be incredibly busy. And I would recommend getting hair color ordered before the world runs out of it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And
Maggie, when in our warm-up conversation, sorry to cut across you, in our warm-up conversation, you said that already in place for reopening, and when that happened, could you share some of those ideas and plans with us as much as you're able?
Absolutely. So what we did with HYATT when we were doing our suspension plans, at the same time we started what we called our restart toolkit for our spa and fitness operations, because we really needed to make sure on the operational side that we opened our doors and we were ready. Well, I think one of our biggest challenges is going to be rehiring our staff and seeing who's still around. Some people may have had to find, either move or find other things to do. So it's the staffing. It's also reestablishing our software and reservation systems, making sure everything gets reconnected from our processors to our printers. The marketing and promotion sides, we have some plans in place, making sure that we're communicating prior to opening, looking at the digital activity that was planned prior to this and seeing if it still makes sense or shifting to that. And of course, on the engineering side is making sure that all of our systems that have been shut down are ready to go. So it's really a checklist, almost like a pre-opening checklist that we put together. And, I will be transparent and honest. The reason we did this is I'm actually on furlough myself. And so when it comes time to reopen our 60 plus spas in the Americas, we needed to have this plan in place so we can support all those that need it.
I think a lot of people just hearing that will obviously hopefully wish you very well. But I think a lot of people feel it's the bosses have been sitting back in their ivory or golden chairs, and whilst the boys and girls are bearing the brunt of it. So in a strange way, for some, that your statement will be shocking and motivating. We all obviously, and you were saying also that a number of your fellow senior executives across the Americas had also been furloughed.
Yes, absolutely.
Believe,
and
is that right?
what's been really great is is, I read an article in the New York Times that was talking about how scientists right now are for the first time, it's not about who's going to get the what am I thinking, the answers to the virus, like who's going to get it first. It's not what it's about. It's about working together and tearing down those walls. And it's been a really beautiful here in the Americas with my counterparts with Marriott and Hilton, Montage and Langham, that we have a group together and we're supporting each other and we're helping each other through this, because we have thousands of people that count on our leadership, on our voice. And as we get out of this, we're going to be stronger because we're working together as a team to make this happen. And I'm really proud of that.
I think that's a testament to you that you have this, a lot of people would in your position might feel resentment. So I think that's a great testament to you. Anna, I think your group is taking a different tack. But how would you look at have you already made plans for reopening? I know in China, you said earlier this week that some of your properties are. What about those who aren't? And can you update us on anything in China or any part of the rest of the world?
Yes, so IHG has taken the stance, and it's generally depending on how much debt and how much cash one has. And IHG don't have debt, so we are able to take this stance where the whole corporate team across the world has taken severe pay cuts, and for this reason, and the reason is try to keep everyone on board and not furlough anyone, for the reason of being able to plan and work now on the future. So a lot of the strategy right now, we've been very focused on crisis handling and responding. Now we're looking at what's this world going to look like when we open up. So no one knows. It's obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but we're starting to have think tanks of looking at how will wellness impact travel. And I heard Maggy's view from the Travel Weekly that says luxury business is going to rebound. I just read today that luxury business is going to be the last to rebound. So no one really knows what's going to happen, because what they're saying is that there's going to be a lot more domestic travel. That is probably very accurate, because French people are going to travel within France and Italians within Italy, etc., because that's the safest. So we don't really know what's happening, but what we know is that it's going to take time.
I'll be on the. I love my country, but I'll be on the plane out. But sorry to interrupt you.
Me too. I'm not afraid of traveling. I'm not afraid of traveling either. But so what we've done is looking at, obviously we put in we're opening in China, and more resorts are opening. Some of our resorts are repurposed to other things, to quarantine resorts or to homeless or other things. So they're still in operation. And then we're looking at bringing together and doing a lot of development within our locations. And we have put initiatives together, both for training as well as innovation, because we have to look at things differently. And then, of course, startup plans, and especially with manning. And I think we will not be able to start. I think we're all agreeing with this crisis is that we're not going to see what we saw from SARS. That is going to be a really quick and fast rebound. It's going to probably be much slower. So we're not going to be able to open with a full team. So we're looking at, okay, what's the smallest team we can, and how can we scale up? How can we keep our staff? We've also obviously put together new operational manuals when it comes to hygiene and information and communication. And then right now, we're also staying connected with our guests and also talking to them and hearing what they want through our new initiative that we call At Home with Census. And that has been hugely successful, because our guests are kind of feeding back to us what they like, what they don't like. And we start to have an interaction, communication with post and daily Facebook Lives and meditations and tips and tricks. So that's been really, because I think it's about hearing what does our guest want to see in the future? So we're looking at that as well. So there's a number of things, but right now we're trying to look at what's the situation going to be in 3 to 4 months when we hopefully start opening up. Where are we opening up? And it all depends on how quickly. I just heard from Kathy Chan today, and Hong Kong, for instance, that thought they were through, they now have a second round of virus coming in, and they're shutting down again. So we have to see that, okay, we might get through the first, but the fact is that we need a certain critical mass of a population to be immune before we can kind of come out of where we want to go. So it might take a lot longer time than we think.
Well, offline, I'd love to hear from your thoughts about Sweden, but we don't probably have time. I don't know how much you're able to share, but you mentioned an interesting point. You had some innovation that you wanted to run through the staff. Can you give us a hint of what that might be, Anna? You know, you said that what could you share with the audience that you, what can you share?
Well, I think we're using the design thinking process or the idea process that's, I think, many are familiar with. And it's a really good process to get around innovation and looking what our guest wants. And when we've communicated with our guest, what they're looking for is reconnection. And it's about learning about health and wellness. And how do they want to learn about it? Because it's not about experiencing it, but what's going to happen right now, we believe in the future, is that self-responsibility. People need to take responsibility of their own health. They're starting to realize, which we in the wellness industry has realized for many years, but medicine or the medical industry cannot help us. We have to help ourselves. And then if we get really sick, we might well, but we don't want to get really sick. And especially with this virus, we know that people with a good immune system, no underlying risk factors, they have a much greater chance of not being affected. So we believe that people don't only want to experience a massage, but they want to learn. And that's, we're then talking to our guests and seeing how do they want to learn, because we don't want to shove it down their throat in the same way. We want to make it into an enjoyable process. So those are the things that we're innovating on, looking completely different on how we communicate and teach and learn and interact with wellness, with sustainability, which is growing as well. And one thing that a lot of our guests have said, reconnection. They want to reconnect because they are disconnected. Even though they're connected online, they want to reconnect with nature, with people, with life in a different way.
Now I think that's a point well made. And I think people will be looking at what you just said and hopefully implementing how they can connect and use their spas and wellness facilities as a catalyst for ongoing wellness with their clients. Jean-Guy, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Mark, and thank you, Maggie and Anna, for sharing so much already. We are a little bit over halfway into the session. I know that we would like to make this as interactive as possible with the people who have joined us on the chat, on YouTube. We have people from, we have Nikos, Anna, we have your good friend Nikos Kouremenos from Six Senses, currently in Greece. We have JP Freitas in Portugal attending. We have Estelle Gomez in HYATT. So I hope to hear from them and to hear some questions. But I'd like to hear it, especially right now, from Vyara. Vyara is now a wellness consultant, but only a few months ago, she was still the well-being and spa manager of the Retreat Palm Dubai M Gallery by Sofitel. And as a consultant today, I know, Vyara, in the UAE, everyone is currently drafting scenarios about reopening. And what does, for you, restart look like in Dubai, highly competitive city? And what are you currently advising your clients as far as revising, marketing, promotions, communications?
Yes, thank you very much, Jean-Guy, to organize that. Can you hear me good, first of all?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. So here we are focusing a lot more on empathetic approach. So what I heard from Maggie and also from Anna, to reconnect with each other in terms of emotional approach. And what I would like to mention is just I heard a very good discussion about the as per behavior scientists, there is 3 categories of guests that are likely to be coming back in our spas. And this is a way how to learn, how to teach our employees how to manage them. And this indeed is the high risk, the medium risk, and the low risk type of guest. So high risk is most probably that guest that suffered themselves through an illness, or perhaps that affected their families or friends. They will be very anxious, nervous, and they have, because most probably they will be survived through that, but still not healed. And then we have to look at them as someone that will need to see our sanitizing rules, policies, procedures in place, and they will be very observant of how we follow that. So we have to make sure that we have all that collateral, signing sheets, visual boards, and everything ready and handy for them in order to ensure them that we keep the best health and well-being in our centers and in terms of our employee education. Number 2 is the medium type of guest, which is very curious. So they will be not likely to request your written policies, but they will be the readers and the scientists. They will read and study a lot on the background. So most of the time they will request how you do that, what is your policies and procedures, and how you ensure that the well-being of the place. And also they will prefer some natural choices. So they will always look into sustainability, as Anna mentioned, and also you have to be prepared to have that always now. It's a must to have that bio-ecological and natural products and retail. And the low type risk of guests, they will be acting as if nothing happened. And then there will be flow in, they will be the first one to come back to you. But very important is to remember also to recognize them, not take them for granted, and also to open the door by welcome back, perhaps a gift voucher or experience or a postcard or anything that you help, they help you also later on to rebuild and to reopen your center, and to through their ambassadorships, through becoming your loyal ambassadors. Another tip here is very good, very important to remember that guests will be very anxious and nervous, first of all. So when we reopen, we have to be much more than them, caring, loving, and attentive. And here comes a lot of emotional intelligence in place. So we have to educate our leaders and ourselves as well in that much more than ever. We have to also take care of prioritizing the volume versus high price tickets, because most of the time people will be asking themselves, can I afford that treatment, maybe feeling guilty of allowing themselves that treatment, and or shall I secure and buy for my families and household. So there you have to be much more open and have a bit of lower pricing for them. Another strategy is to create the yielding and to invite in that less busy timings with lower rates your sensitive guests, which will be always anxious, looking around, checking what is here, who is here, who is there, maybe I will get affected, and have that personal space for them. And another tip that I would like to mention is as well the tiers of pricing. So have the low to high options, and always when you have to remember also that when you want to push the average rate, so always think on something that you add on the top of that. So as a therapy product, gift voucher, on anything like that, and don't be concerned that much of your profitability at first, but the loyalty that you are
Thank you,
dragging
Vyara.
in
Thank
again
you very
back to your
much.
business.
One quick question before Mark takes our panelists to the next question. Maggy, yesterday, Andrew and especially Amanda were very thoughtful or strategic about the right moment to reopen. Everyone's waiting to reopen. Everyone is anxious and looking forward to reopening, to again servicing clients and having revenues flow back again with retail or with services. However, Amanda mentioned maybe reopening right away is not the best idea, because the pickup of the growth could be really, really slow or slower than expected. What is your thoughts on this as you are preparing your restart plan for HYATT in the Americas?
Well, thank you, Shunki. I think it really depends on location and the type of spa, the clientele prior to closing, to really looking at the demographic. And what I mean by that is, if it's a spa that was in an area where 30, 40, 50% of the guests that were using the spa was the local community, there may be an opportunity there that the spa opens at the same time as there's a need for it. I think ultimately it's really important that we look at our stakeholders, our owners, who right now are in dire straits, and we need to make sure the plans we have in place, the financial models that we're using, are at least showing a break even, and that we're not losing revenues from the start. I also think that, again, with HYATT, I'm talking resort and hotel properties. I believe that when our hotel doors open, our fitness center doors will open as well. And I think there's an opportunity to, if it is separate spaces, to, well, one, of course, the cleanliness side of it and the new protocols on the fitness side. But I think there's opportunities for spa to merge into the fitness space. For instance, stretching and bringing massage table, portable tables into the yoga studios, and being able to do to bring spa into that space instead of fitness going into the spa, if the plan is to not open the spas at the same time as the rest of the property. So I really believe that it's situational, but that timing is really key.
Thank you so much, Mark. Back at you, and then maybe we'll take a question from Marisa on YouTube. On YouTube.
No, an issue we hadn't really discussed is: do you think there'll be a change in spa guest behaviour when we come back? Vyara, what's your take on that?
Yes, so this is the exactly this is what I mentioned. So this is the type of guest that we will be coming to us. We will be much more anxious and nervous. So there is approach that we need to take much more on emotional level. So it's no longer, I have to be scientifically educated on KPIs and budget and forecasting in order to be a spa manager or spa therapist. I have to go now in the humanistic side. So I have to be much more concerned and much more empathetic, as also earlier Maggy mentioned. So I have to be, as much as they are nervous, anxious and worried, and as much as they also try to make it up for a living, and then they compromise this high earned dollar for spa treatment. So as much I have to be more loving and understanding, and also offer them different strategies. Because if you think about that, so now I would have a chance maybe to buy something for my family, or perhaps to go to do let's say, as Maggy mentioned, so if I put the bed into the fitness, so perhaps I can create a lower rate of treatment that I can accommodate higher volume of guests. So we have to be really flexible, agile, and we have to think fast and learn fast. It's very important for us not to be stuck in the same place. If we see that something is not working, we change it, or is not bringing us at least, let's say, the break even, because this will be also our call to make. We have to make money. But at least if we see that something is not working, we change it fast. It's really how we look at this is at our new opening of business. Be agile, be brave, and in the same time communicate with other leaders around you, because it's very important that you create that mastermind groups. We are not alone in this. Everybody is in the same boat, and be open to communicate with other leaders in the industry and with your guests, because the beauty of communicating with your guests is most of the time they will give you problems. And with these problems, you create your solutions, meaning you create your profitable treatments and services. So be smart to listen and to create out of that. So for example, I don't have money for my 60-minute spa. What can I do for you? Perhaps I can bring a stretching bed in the fitness, or I could do something that is tailor-made for you and still benefit and still achieve the same benefits that you would like to come to my center or to my business for.
Thank you so much, Vyara. Thank you so very much.
That's my main point.
Thank you. Let's hear it from Anna.
Do you have take on that? And do you think?
Well, I mean, I come from it slightly also. What's interesting because in Sweden things are not closed. So I went to a spa this weekend with my daughter, and I spoke to them and said, "How are things going?" And what they said is that feet and nail and hair services are as busy as ever, but massage is down. So I do believe that that's happened, but they're still offering massage. I mean, Sweden is a bit different. Gyms are open and bars and restaurants, so we're handling this slightly different. But what I also, and we had a discussion, is that we have I think that Vyara is absolutely right, but the early adopters who are not scared, they will go out and they will have everything. And also, there's a lot of people who are not scared because of the reason is that they're not in the risk zone. So they will go out and use spas. But what I also think that we should not forget, and what we've been discussing internally, both within Raison d'Etre and Six Senses, is that the power of touch. We cannot survive without touch, and people are not being touched right now. And that is actually unhealthy. We know that from science all over, and there's a huge amount of science that's saying that we need touch. So I also think that once this is over, when we're truly through, I think massage will be booming because we get sick when we're not touched. It's just this, and we have a lot of people living alone, which are not in families right now, and being crucially alone. So I think that's one thing that we're going to see, that it's going to be first beauty, hand, feet, but then we're going to go up to a bit more. And also another tip for people who have salons and those things, I just want to say, because in Sweden, once you open up in other countries, what hairdressers and manicurists and saloon workers are doing is that they're actually doing home visits to people. So they're going, instead of the people needing to come to them, if they're scared, they can go to them and give them a haircut or a manicure or a pedicure. So it's just something to think about, that's another way to work it as it's opening up and being creative.
Thank you, Anna. Maggie, please, an idea from the US.
I just wanted to add one thing, and really great comments. But one thing we may want to look at is our protocols on massage.
You're fading out, Maggie.
What's that? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Maggie.
Go ahead,
we lost you for a second, but then you're good.
Is to look at our massage protocol, and for those that may be a little scared, is to do the whole massage in the prone, and we can work the whole body without them needing to be, with them face down, which feels a little bit safer. So I think that, again, it's looking at how we've done things in the past, looking at perhaps what's keeping people from coming in, and just re-looking at it that way. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so very much. We have a good point from Marisa on YouTube that says, how do we reassure guests that our therapists and staff are virus-free and have clean bin of health? I'm sure consumers, she says, will be concerned about that. Anna, is it something that you have reinstated as you reopen some resorts and spas in China? And Maggie, you will be next on how you feel you could, in your restart plan, maybe next to the certificates and diplomas of the team, you can also have, check. But first to you, Anna.
No, sorry. Just as I started speaking, I was starting coughing.
Oh my God, you're
I got
coughing.
something in my throat. No, I'm not coughing with that.
Okay.
Even when you sneeze, you get bad conscious nowadays. But I think that there is, unless the test comes out, basically, where you can immediately get a result if you have antibodies or not, which they're working on, there's no way you can safeguard that someone doesn't have the virus or not. I think that, but in the future, it's just as we're doing right now. If you feel any of the symptoms, don't come into work until we have kind of come over the hump of the virus. It's just how that has to be. Same with the guests. We have to ask them if you have any symptoms, take self-responsibility. It has to be a bit of self-responsibility. But there's no way we can safeguard it forever. And the question is if we're going to live with this virus in that way forever as well, because as we hopefully get immunity, we are also looking at a different reality for us, so that if you've had the virus, you will not transmitting any virus in the future.
How about risk management? Because I know big companies like IHG or HYATT will also want to be risk adverse, saying, we don't want a client to say, look, I've been isolated. I really wanted to have that massage, went, received it, and now I'm checking positive or I'm coughing at home. How can you protect yourself from liability? Maggie, and then back to Anna.
Again, at this juncture, we're all learning. It'll be interesting to see as risk management, again, with HYATT, they've been dealing with this globally with China and Europe. But at this, I mean, I personally would love to make sure that we could test our colleagues to see if they have a fever prior to coming to work. But even before this pandemic, I think we've always had to be smart with our teams and say, if you're not feeling well, you know, don't come into work. And so now it's even heightened. It's even heightened more. So I think it's something that we again are going to have to learn. I know there's liabilities about taking guest temperature and our associates' temperature, our colleagues' temperature, and identifying that way. But that there could be shifts in that thinking as well. There's still work to be done.
Thank you, Maggie. Your answer, Anna, about IHG, and then Mark will definitely.
Well, I think all big big corporations are very legal based. So it might be a change to a disclaimer, it might be a change to communication, making sure that the risk of liability is as little as possible, because otherwise we could, and I don't think we've kind of looked at that and see how to deal with it at this point of time, but there's no doubt that it's being discussed, and we have to, because the problem is that if people get infected in a spa, in any, or in the wellness or in a hotel, what does that mean? And what in liability? So that's something that is being discussed. But as Maggie says, there hasn't been any conclusion coming out of that yet. But it will be, and it will be addressed, and most likely in various disclaimers and other things that we generally do.
Thank you very much, Mark. Back to you.
Moving on. Another one for you, Anna, and then Maggie. You know, in regard to program that you offer, the pricing and availability, has the crisis made you think again about how your spas can be more accessible to your communities and others that might need the wellness benefits that you provide? Anna, if you could.
Sure.
Because obviously you're a very high end, you're a great high end, one of the best for us to be inspired by, Six Senses, but it's clearly a high end environment.
It is, and we will continue to be physically, so to speak, a high-end environment. What we're looking at is, for instance, this campaign that we're doing now with At Home with Six Senses, is that we are looking at scaling that up and to have that ongoing, whereby we can give the spa experience at home. So maybe we're not going to send therapists to be able to do it, but they're going to learn from us. We're going to give their tips. We have expertise. So we're looking at sharing a lot more of our knowledge and how to do healthy dishes and how to do movement and classes. So those are some things that we are looking at, making it more accessible. But we are a luxury resort, and we'll continue to be a luxury resort. So when it comes to physical hotels and spas, we will continue with the price structure that we've had in the past.
Maggie, any take from you and your group on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that as we're talking about, you know, domestic travel is going to be our key components, and I think we need to be looking at our local communities as our new best customers. Some of the things that actually a suggestion that a peer of mine that is not a HYATT property, but they're looking at opening days and getting rid of all the pricing and saying, pay what you can, and having days of gratitude to open the door and, you know, and do some of the services, not the whole menu. But I think as we talk about reconnecting and socializing, having a daily access fee that maybe is a pay what you can. Maybe generally it was $75 to come and use the amenities and to heal in the sauna and the steam and to just sit and be and breathe and pause for a moment is opening our doors at certain times, maybe in the evenings, at a smaller fee, and then providing a bounce back voucher to come back for a service. The whole discounting thing, I'm about value add. I think we have to maintain the integrity of our pricing and who we are as a business. But I think that there is an opportunity now to be more dynamic in that, so more people can walk through our doors and experience the wellness and healing and the touching that they need.
We've had actually a couple of questions on our YouTube chat that people have asked, well, in various ways, shall we reduce our prices? So you actually touched on, Maggy, pay what you can, which is a gesture. But I think I know what the panel will say, but if you briefly, Maggy, I'll start with you, then Anna, then Vyara, what would you say to that question? Shall we reduce our prices?
Well, I think that our pricing should remain how it is, but we be dynamic with it, similar to what we've been doing in the past and similar to what was spoken in the panel yesterday. But on the weekend and weekday pricing and peak time pricing, and again, perhaps we re-engineer our menus to provide services that are not quite as costly, so that the guilt, people might have the money, but the guilt that comes at that same time, it's okay, because we know that people need it.
Anna?
Well, I've studied a bit of pricing strategy in the past, and discounting rarely works in the long run. In the sense of that you lose your positioning and your integrity. So one has to look at that very carefully. I think one strategy that some luxury brands are working on right now, or restaurants, is that you buy gift vouchers at a discounted price. So that's one way on how to get revenue in, and that's, I think, is a possibility to do. But other than that, I'm not that prone on discounting. But it depends on what price point and who you are. Like the Six Senses is not, but we also have, for instance, in IHG, we have Intercontinental, and we have Regent, and we have Kimpton, we have Holiday Inn. So there are different strategies for every brand that one has to take into account. But I would rather, as Maggie said, add also value-added things, and also make sure that we diverse our offering to maybe more low-cost option in terms of times or what that option is. So we're looking at that to have more inclusion, but I would say one needs to keep its brand integrity when it comes to pricing, because otherwise, especially as a luxury brand, I would say.
Yes, yesterday Andrew had a lovely example of the hotel in Vegas slashing its prices from 500 to 100 and getting all sorts of the wrong customers and having extra costs for the hotel. But would you target any special, it seems to me, are you doing extra to existing customers where you've got a loyal customer? Are you doing extra for them as opposed to trying to get new business?
We are connecting with our loyal customers more, our repeated guests. We're doing special, we're already now talking about, we have a campaign, Book Now, Pay Later, is also a thing where you can look at. So we do have a couple of campaigns. We're going to, it's been more helping and being a companion than doing offers. It's not that time yet, and we don't know when we're going to be open. But also people, when they're sitting at home, they want to dream of the future. So we're trying to also be able to say, this is what can come up and this is possibilities. But we are communicating with them, and we're also looking at ways to increase our communication. I love Borg Ignacia, what they've done, which we talked about earlier this week, where they're sending out their tomato sauce to their most loyal customers. And there's things like that we're looking. We have, for instance, started an initiative in the Maldives where we have our marine biologists have nothing to do. They're doing a course for kids at home who have been interested in our repeater guests. So there's lots of those things that we're trying to initiate, and then and just sending them fun clips on what's happening.
We're running out of time, but Vyara, you have the last word. What would you say on pricing?
Thank you. Yes. So yes, I would definitely agree with Anna and Maggie that we shouldn't go much more into discounting politics. However, we can still create value. And also, what I would as a consumer, what I would always prefer is that I have options to choose. So we have to be more accessible. We have to open our doors wider, because people will be not only feeling guilty, but also they will be not purchasing that as they were before. And perhaps looking at certain days and certain timings, creating that yielding, creating that and targeting the specific type of guest in specific timing, because this is where you know that your ex-guest being more anxious or having that high risk attitude. So then perhaps invite them into the less busy timings as well. Create that kind of a strategy that you can, based on time and date, perhaps you target your guests rather than you waiting for them to target you. So you know your guests, and perhaps create some packages that you know, okay, so Mrs. Smith, she is concerned and sensitive. Okay, let me invite her at this time for this treatment at this price. And also start with your loyal guests. I mean, this is something that we all know. So start with your loyal guests and see, perhaps do a survey, how they will react. So how they will also, what they would change now, how they feel about the pricing that you have, and what feedback they will give you. We have to be a great listener here. And also, if we need to start with a small survey to our loyal guests, so let's do it. And also, we need to be much more quick and agile, and to see what's working and what's not, and to not to overanalyze, just to see, for example, if this type of, let's say, strategy, we try it for 1 month and it doesn't generate us much more money, or at least the money that we need to survive in the business. So then let's reshift and see what else is working. Definitely I'm very big fan of value add, not discounts, and always highlighting the value that you're adding, and then the price that you are, so the benefit that you're giving for that. Perhaps you keep the same prices.
I need to cut you there, I'm afraid. Jean-Guy, you have something to say briefly. Sorry, Vyara, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Yes, we are definitely running 3 minutes. Yeah, we're definitely running 3 minutes out of our allocated time. But thank you so very much, all. I also will be listening in replay on PBTV, that this is a time not just to communicate with your staff, not just associates, not to communicate with your guests, communicate also, as our speakers today have said, with other senior executives, managers, directors in your area. And I've heard a lot recently about spa owners or managers, salon owners, fitness managers who are getting together and are creating wellness collectives in different cities. Vyara is also the World Wellness Weekend ambassador in the UAE, and she is right now gathering a lot of professionals to look at what they can do on September 19 and 20 for sure. Q1 is shot of 2020. Q2 is definitely compromised, but definitely look at Q3. Whether you reopen before or you open then, it will definitely be a moment to rise as an industry and shine as leaders with the wellness collectives, when you can really catch the attention of local media with everything you have to offer. Thank you, Mark.
All I want to say is it's been a great session, as always. We run out of time, which is, I suppose, is a good thing. Maggy Dunphy, Anna Bjurstam, Vyara, Tosheva, and of course, Jean-Guy de Gabriac. Thank you very much, really, for your time and insight. I hope to pester you again in the coming months, and thank you for sharing.
Looking forward to it. We like pestering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
À bientôt.
Bye.